Hello, everyone. Okay, I'm here today. My name is Tonya Shaw, Tonya the Business Alchemist. I do branding and astrology for Soulpreneurs. And I'm here with a very special guest today. I'm here with Jackson Lim, who is the co-founder of a company which does accounting services, tax services, as well as company secretarial services. So all the stuff you needed to know in terms of accounting and admin, this is Jackson's company, and the name of the company is Growth, but it's not GROWTH, it's GROF, right, Jackson?
Yes, that's right. Thanks for having
Yeah.
me, Tonya.
Yeah, welcome to the show. Yeah, you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, thank you very much. Growth has been around since 2019, so we have probably helped over 2,000 businesses get started in Singapore. We have probably about 35 headcounts right now. So our focus is really, being a digital first professional service company, offering the company formation, the accounting, the tax support, employment passes advisory as well.
Mm.
So yeah, very, very happy to, talk to somebody like Tonya, who is always very passionate about business and getting things right. So yep.
Okay, thank you so much for the introduction. So, accounting firms and all that, right? I guess maybe some people are not aware of the kind of services that you guys do.
Mm,
But I mean, because I've got a background in accounting as well, although I don't use that background.
mm,
But yeah, I guess for the audience, for all of you, if you wanted to start a business, right? Jackson's actually one of the first people that you should talk to. As far as regulatory matters are concerned, as far as getting things right is concerned, of course you can always start a business, but I guess the first question I have for you, Jackson, is
mm,
if I am like starting out first, right?
mm,
And I just want to start a business as and I want to start charging people for money, right? I want to
mm,
start for my charging for my services. So what must I do? Like what's the first step I need to do?
mm. So I guess likely the first step you need to do, right, is after you have really have all your business plan set up, what do you want to sell, where are you going to operate, for example, and how is the sort of the business forecast going to look like. Once that one is already done already, right, I think likely the first step is really registration of the business. So when we talk about company registration, typically we talk about, let's say, business, the concept will be similar to ACRA. It will be called a sole proprietorship.
Mm.
So sole proprietorship usually are the easiest form of business structure that you can have in Singapore.
And when you talk about a business that
Mm,
you register with ACRA, is
yeah,
ACRA, the accounting and I don't know what it stands for, ACRA.
yeah, accounting and the corporate regulatory authority.
I see. So they are the ones who regulate the business in Singapore, right?
That is right. That is right.
Yeah. Okay.
So they will
Okay.
be the go-to, one stop center for all the matters relating to companies.
I see. Okay. So when you register the sole proprietorship with ACRA, can you do it online for yourself? Like, is it a very simple process?
Yeah, it is actually a fairly simple process. First you probably need to choose a business name, that
Mm,
is unique to yourself, right?
okay.
Then the next one will be, let ACRA vet whether they will allow this business name to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And once that one is done, just got to pay $15, via your credit card.
Mm-hmm.
Once that one is done, it's basically you can reserve the business name. And from there onwards, you can proceed to register the business itself. So I believe the registration itself will ask you for a few more information about things like, where is the registered address, where will what will be the business activity of the company.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay.
And
So
I think
it's
the
just
fees, if I'm not
basically.
wrong, is like I believe the fees is maybe like $100 to get yourself registered fully.
Okay, so this basically gives you the legitimacy to take money from customers and just to do business in Singapore as a sole
That's
proprietor,
right.
right?
Yeah, that would be
Okay.
the simplest form.
Okay. And if say, is that all I need to know as a business owner, or is it something else? Like, do I need to hire a person to help me with tax, or do I need to do tax? Like,
Mm.
what's the after that? What happens?
So usually in Singapore, right, I would say that for a sole proprietorship type of business, right,
Hmm.
the compliance are actually pretty light in the sense that the filing of taxes will usually coincide together with by the end of the year. So usually sole proprietorship, just remember that your year end is calendar year end,
31st December
and you that's right, and you need to
for
submit
everybody.
all your for everybody, and you
Hmm.
need to submit that the income from the sole proprietorship to IRAS usually around March of every year.
I see. IRAS as in the Inland Revenue Authorities.
In the revenue authorities. That's right.
Okay.
So
Okay.
something, Tonya, to remember, right, is
Mm,
that for sole proprietorship, right, essentially it is not a separate legal entity from the business owner. So,
mm,
for example, you set it up as a business, right? This will what is happening is that if you're doing business under this sole proprietorship, right, the business owner will have unlimited liability.
mm.
Okay, so if let's say you are being the company, or rather the business is being sued, right? Then you'll be sued as if the owner is being sued.
Mm. Right, right, right. So
So this
for
might open up yourself to a lot of legal risk.
yeah, yeah, understand. So what like
Mm,
what you say if say I'm a therapist, for example, and
mm,
it's the psychological kind of therapist, for example, right? And
mm,
someone says that I have not been very appropriate in dealing with my customers. And so they can take legal action for that. And then in terms of legal action, I guess they will be suing and they will be looking for compensation of some sort. So if, for
mm,
example, I've only put in, $100 into my business, for example, I can't
mm,
limit my liability to that extent. I will be
mm.
sued personally for it. As in, if the damages is $100,000, I personally have to fork out $100,000 for that damage. Is that correct?
That is right. That
Wow,
is right.
that's very scary. It's very, very scary.
Yes, it is scary. Yes, it is.
So,
It is.
yeah, in terms of
Mm,
say malpractice, right, for service
mm,
providers, for example, I mean you also
mm,
have
mm,
people who take insurance, for example,
mm-hmm.
professional liability insurance. But say
Yeah.
if there is no such thing for the kind
Mm,
of work that I do, I still can be
yeah.
personally sued, right?
That is right. That is right.
Okay. So I guess that's
Mm,
something for my listeners and my audience to know as well. It's like there's no separation. If you do anything
mm,
wrong, but it's not even wrong, but it's just that someone else is taking a personal case against you, right? It's not like you are not adhering to the law, but if it's just a very
mm,
simple case of something suing you for something, someone suing you for something that they
mm.
think you've done wrong, your
Yeah.
house can go. Your whole roof, everything can go as well if you need to find the cash for it, right?
Yes. Essentially, that is right. And I think this is one of the major reasons why we usually advise our clients, once they have certain traction, to actually consider, incorporating a company.
Mm, I see, I see. Okay, I got it.
Mm,
I guess the thing is the legalities aside, like, do you have any maybe kind of benchmarks in terms of, what kind of revenue, what kind of profit are you talking about before you should take it to the next level, or there's
mm,
nothing at all?
So that's actually a very good point. So if you were to think about it, from a business expansion type of scenario, right? So example, right? If let's say you plan to grow the business, and to grow the business, you likely will require, let's say, more capital investment. So, the capital investment, are you going to get it from yourself, or are you going to get it from, let's say, outside parties, right?
Mm.
So, sole proprietor will not allow you to admit, more people into the business. So that's when you need to consider, whether you want to set up a company
Mm.
to let's say admit more shareholders or more partners into the business, right?
Mm. Mm. I see.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's a consideration, like, I guess, if you are working with someone else, right?
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I think the other big part, right? Like you mentioned, is there like a threshold whereby you should consider moving to a sole proprietor, right? I think the other big major one will really be your tax obligation. So
Mm.
as you're aware, right? If let's say you are running the business as a sole proprietor, then the business income, right, or the trade income, right, essentially will be taxed at your personal tax bracket.
Mm-hmm.
So in
Yep.
Singapore, I think the personal income tax bracket goes all the way up to 24%.
Mm.
Versus, let's say you now set up a private limited company, right, to run the business. So, besides a pretty generous partial tax exemption for new start companies for the first 3 years, you also will be eligible to, let's say, the ongoing, tax exemption provided by the government. And after that, right, essentially whatever is supposed to be taxable will be maximum at 17%. It'll be a
Mm.
one line, straight line 17%. So
Mm.
usually, once you have certain traction, then I think um, from this consideration, right, then you should really consider, moving to a private limited.
Ah, I see, I see. Okay, got it.
Mm,
So yeah, okay lah. When you do hit that threshold of earning more than maybe 18% tax, then you
that's
should
right.
consider moving all of your earnings into a private limited, right? Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Another question I wanted to ask though, I mean, because you have
Yep.
the sole proprietorship, which is the owner,
Mm,
the one owner, then you have the
mm-hmm.
private limited on the other side.
Yep.
Then you have something
Yes.
else in between called LLP, right?
Yep.
Limited Liability
Yep.
Partnership. Now,
Mm, mm,
can you explain a bit more on what that is?
definitely. So LLP, right, essentially is also, a kind of corporate structure whereby people can come together. So there is a cap of 20 partners in an LLP. So you imagine that on one spectrum, right, you have the sole proprietor, that is one, and then you have private limited, that is the other spectrum, that limits to 50 shareholders, and you have LLP that comes in between a maximum of 20 partners. Okay.
Mm.
The good thing of LLP is obviously, individual partners in an LLP, right? Um, they will not be held, personally liable for, let's say, business debts incurred by the LLP. Okay. However, the partners themselves will still be personally liable for claims from loss because of their own, or her wrongful act or omission. So
Oh, I
it doesn't
see.
fully shield. So it doesn't fully shield the partners, from any wrongdoing.
I see, I see. So even in your personal capacity as a therapist, for example, you will still be
Mm,
personally liable even though you're in a limited liability partnership.
that is right. That
So
is
if
right.
I owe people money and if I go bankrupt, then yes, my liability is limited to the amount of money that I have in the bank account in the LLP.
Mm,
But if someone sues me for misconduct, then no, my whole house can go as well.
yes, correct.
Oh wow, okay, this is something new I didn't know about. But yeah, thanks
Yes.
for bringing that up. If I mean
Mm,
if there are people who are considering a limited liability partnership, because this is something of a slightly more, I guess, an easier structure for some people to work around, because private limited has more regulatory things, has more like cost
mm,
involved, but LLP is still, a little easier to manage administratively. And I can understand why some people would want to consider
correct.
LLP as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But for
And I think also,
LLPs,
yes.
mm,
Sorry.
yeah, sorry. For LLPs as well, you're saying that
Mm,
you would say that actually the income is also taxed on a personal level basis, right? So it's
yes, that's right.
31st December filing, it would be a 24% maximum tax rate as well.
Mm.
Yeah. Sorry,
That's right.
I
That's
have
right.
interrupted you. What did you want to say about the LLP?
Oh no, no. I think you just mentioned correctly about the tax part.
Ah, okay, okay, okay. Got it,
Yeah.
got it, got it. Yeah, so I guess
Mm,
many different considerations as a business
yep.
owner.
Mm,
And the third thing for private limited,
mm,
what kind of, I guess, obligations, legal obligations do they have as a private
mm-hmm,
limited as opposed to the sole proprietorship?
mm. So I guess a lot of times, right, for people they might say that private limited there is actually a lot of compliance steps. In our experience, we don't really think that it is that much. So let me explain to you, right? So let's say for private limited, compliance actually can be pretty straightforward
Mm,
in the sense that when it comes to, let's say, your annual return. So what essentially happens is that the company will need to do the annual general meeting that is held 6 months after the financial year end. And from there, the corporate secretary will help you to file your annual return to ACRA. So
mm,
this is one step. The second step, right, is that from the tax filing side of the house, right. For private limited, usually there are two sets of tax filing to file. One is what we call the ECI, or estimated chargeable income. So this one will be due 3 months after the company's financial year end.
mm,
So it is based on the estimated numbers, you know, because as an accountant, you can imagine that once the year end close, right, you are probably still busy closing the books, making the adjustments to the accounts, right?
mm,
So IRAS want to know, let's say 3 months after year end, what is the company's expected numbers, and you'll file
mm,
tax based on that, right?
mm,
And they'll tax you a preliminary amount, what I call notice of assessment based on that. And usually on the 30th of November every year, that is when you need to file the actual tax, or what we call the Form CS for the company.
mm.
So essentially, these three main deadlines for a company.
I see. Okay. Sorry, let's go back to the first one. The
Yep,
first deadline is the annual return,
yep,
where the company secretary files the AGM, the annual general meeting, with the ACRA for you, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Can you do it yourself? Just a no question.
Yes,
Is
yes.
it someone able to do it for themselves, or do they need a certified, qualified company secretary to do it?
They can definitely do it themselves. So we do have clients who are, let's say, they just want to do it themselves, so that they're familiar with how the step goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just be careful that in Singapore, even though the Companies Act, right, allow just one shareholder in any company, they also allow companies with just one director. But if let's say your company only has one director, right, then it is a must for you to always have a secretary on the company at any point in time.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. If they are sole owner of the business, then it's highly
So yeah,
unlikely they will
so
be able
director is,
to
is
do it.
is slightly better. Correct, correct.
I see, I see. Okay.
Mm.
And in filing the annual general meeting, I guess the minutes of the meeting will probably need to be drawn up. And you also will need to have a set
Hmm.
of your financial statements too, right? At the same time.
Yes, that is right. So essentially, right, the this kind of like agenda that happens in the annual general meeting is a couple of things. It's usually to discuss about directors, whether there's any directors who are retiring, or any new directors that will be appointed to the company. That's number one.
Mm,
Number two would be for the shareholders, who likely might be the same person as the director, right, to approve the accounts, for the year of the company. So you
mm,
can imagine that sometimes you might have maybe like three shareholders. Maybe two are passive shareholder. You have one that is actively running, the business as a director. So the two passive shareholders might want to know, okay, every year, what happens to the company, how's the performance of the company, and they will have the rights to vote on adopting the accounts for the year,
mm,
right?
mm,
Number three is that usually, let's say there is any dividend, final dividend that is to be declared. Maybe a company has a good year, the directors want to declare dividends out to the shareholders. This is also a right that shareholders has to decide, whether they approve or not the dividend.
I see. Okay. Dividends as in the way in which the profits of the company are distributed to the shareholders.
Yes,
Right.
correct. And
Sorry,
and one
I
thing
just
very
have
good
to.
in
Yeah,
yes, go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, and I think one thing good about Singapore is that dividends usually, right, are actually there's no more taxes on the individual owner's hand when
Taxes on
dividends are
the.
declared.
I see. So
Mm.
so the taxes are kind of deducted at the company end.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So
So there's no more taxes to be incurred for the individual shareholders.
I see. Okay. Yeah, but
Mm.
dividends normally declared after the profits are declared and after they pay the tax of
Yes.
17%, and then the profits can be the profits can be distributed. But once they're
Mm.
distributed to the Singaporean local or
Mm-hmm.
resident, then you say they
Yeah,
don't have to pay any tax on this dividend.
that's right.
Okay, I got it.
Mm.
Understand. Yes, because the tax is already paid at 17% before that.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, all right,
Mm.
understand. I hope the
Mm-hmm.
audience is finding it okay to follow us. Sometimes it's not so easy for some of us to fully understand
Very
it.
true.
But yeah,
Yes. Mm.
I guess some of the arguments for forming a private limited as well versus a sole proprietor that I've
Mm.
seen in a less regulatory, kind of way is that I've seen that most big companies, when they deal with the sole proprietor or the small businesses, they prefer to also deal with a private limited rather than a sole proprietorship. There's something to
Mm.
do with the way in which they are perceived in some way. So that's just something which I thought I would just point out. Like, as for
Mm.
example, if you're having a collaboration with, I don't know, some big physiotherapist company, or you're doing a
Mm.
collaboration with a corporate company to do corporate retreats, usually they would prefer to deal with a private limited rather than a sole proprietor. I'm
Yep,
not sure why,
that's
but
right.
it's just a reputation thing, I guess. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
So I guess the other thing I wanted to come back to is you were talking about filing and you were talking about
Mm.
financial statements and so on, right?
Yep.
That's for the private limited. But how about the sole proprietorship? What kind
Mm.
of like requirements does the accounting the ACRA want from the
Mm.
sole proprietor when they file their return for the year, for example? Do they
Mm.
need to file a return for
S-
the year?
Yeah, so usually for sole proprietor, with ACRA, right? Usually, what the IRAS will, or rather, if you're talking about for ACRA side of the house, right? Usually,
Mm,
ACRA do not need sole proprietor to file anything. It's more like to
mm.
renew the registration.
Right.
So when you renew the registration, right, I think one of the main things that ACRA will be looking is that they want to ensure that what you call the Medisave for sole proprietor is actually top up per the CPF guideline.
Mm, I see. I
Mm.
see. Medisave
Okay.
is topped up per CPF guidelines. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
So, as a sole
Mm.
proprietor, though,
Mm-hmm.
you are not paying yourself anything, right? All you're doing is you're just earning from the business and then you get to keep the profits. And
That's right.
then you'll be taxed on those profits at the end of the day. And the next part is for the sole proprietor, then you're looking at tax, right? So
Mm-hmm. That's right.
their tax obligation would just be to report what? To report profit to the IRS?
Mm. Good. It's a good question. So usually for sole proprietor, right, what you need if let's say your revenue is more than 200,000, right, is to prepare what we call a four-line statement of accounts. So it's really four lines. The first line will be the revenue. The second line will be your gross profit or gross loss. The third one will be the allowable business expenses. All right. And the last one will be the adjusted profit or loss.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fairly simple one. And from there, then, IRAS will actually, compute what is the taxable amount on your profit, and they'll issue you a notice of assessment from there.
This is you're saying when it's above 200 or below 200,000
Above 200,000 in revenue.
in revenue. Okay, what happens if you're below
Yes.
200,000 in revenue?
Usually, if you're below 200,000, right, then they just need what we call a two-line statement.
Okay.
So the first line will be revenue, and the second line will just be the adjusted profit or loss.
Okay. Why is there a word saying adjusted profit or loss?
So essentially, right, what you need to do is that you need to, from your own, so just I mentioned about the four lines, right? You have the revenue, the gross profit, and then the third line will actually be what we call the allowable business expenses. So this is when you actually put in, what you deem to be deductible expenses for the company there. And from there, right, you derive what we call the adjusted number.
Okay, so you say this is different from the actual business expenses that the business person is incurring, for example.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Why is there a difference? Like, are there certain assumptions behind why certain things are like not allowable, for example?
You can imagine that sometimes the kind of like expenses of the business owners are kind of mixed up with the expenses of the business itself. So
I see.
example, right? Maybe maybe you're using your personal credit cards, let's say for some entertainment that is maybe for personal entertainment, and it shows up on, let's say, the sole proprietor's account. So these are the items that you got to remember to not be used for deductions.
Okay. Okay. So, for example, I'm just going out for a meal with my friend versus I'm going out for a meal with the client. So, if I'm going out for a meal with the client, then I can deduct this expense, no?
Yes, that is right. That is right. And another thing, right, that is peculiar to, let's say, sole proprietorship is that sometimes you might be, hiring a lot of family members, right? You might say, okay, maybe my wife will be the administrator, but actually she only works like half the time, for example. In this case, right, trusts do have, let's say, what they call the rights to say that if, let's say, they deem that the salaries that you're paying to your related party, in this case, right, if they're excessive, they may not allow the excess amount to be deducted.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so they are actually catching you on the other side in case you decide to make some arbitrary payment to
That is
increase your deductibles, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that is right. That is right.
They may do that, but it's I guess it's subject to them IRAs coming in to review your accounts as well.
Yes,
Okay.
that is right.
Okay.
That is
Okay.
right.
So, in terms of business costs, in general, are you able to give me certain categories of what is deductible? There's entertainment, there'll be salary of employees, for example. What else is deductible?
Yeah. So in general, right, I think the rule of thumb to remember is that when it comes to deductible business expense, you likely want to ensure that this is wholly and solely incurred to generate the revenue. So what do we mean by that is that, let's say, entertainment, maybe you need to take a Gojek ride, to meet to go for a business meeting. That one is very clear. You need to ensure that you indicate that the Gojek ride, for the particular day, who are you meeting, right? This is, you need to record it down. So it's number one. Number two is that once the expense is being incurred, right, then the expense must be incurred itself. So, for example, maybe you have already paid the money, for example, or maybe your supplier has already issued you a invoice. Once the work is done. So actually, that is expenses that are incurred, right? The other one is that they must not be personal or private in nature, like what we just discussed, which is like maybe personal entertainment to entertain your family, or even, let's say, country club subscription. All
I
right.
see. I got it.
The other one, let's say, maybe for certain sole proprietor, maybe they may need to buy a lot of equipment. You can imagine maybe they say, oh, I need to buy certain computers, for example, that is considered capital in nature
Mm,
by IRAS.
mm,
So technically, right, these are not considered allowable business expenses.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So on that
Even
side,
say,
right, what we need to do,
sorry,
yeah,
even say, for example, a laptop which costs you something like $2,000, is that considered to be a capital or
mm,
a
that
capital
is actually
nature?
considered capital, correct? So what we need to do
Mm,
is that we might need to consider claiming them under capital allowance,
mm,
which will follow
okay.
a different type of claiming model.
Mm. So it's kind of one of those things where it's $2,000 and then maybe there's a lifespan of 2 years, for example. Then they
It could be,
allow,
yes.
uh, if it's $2,000, for example, then they allow you to claim
Mm-hmm.
2 years and then it'll be $1,000 each year as an allowable sort
Yes.
of a depreciation. I'm not sure what's the term for it.
Capital allowance.
Capital allowance. Okay, got it,
Capital
got it.
allowance, correct. All right.
Yeah.
So you ended up, yeah, I think typically, I think the laptop example they brought is very good, Tanya. So I think in Singapore, right, they actually allow you to claim the laptop under what we call a accelerated, rule. So you can actually claim that in 1 year.
Ah, okay. So
Ah,
it's not considered to be an expense, but the purchase of computer equipment, like like what I have is a desktop, right? And if it costs
mm,
me $2,000, for example, it's still I can still claim for it as an
mm,
allowable capital expenditure in that year that I have spent on that thing, right?
correct, correct,
Mm,
correct.
okay, okay,
Okay. Mm,
yeah, got
and
it.
one more thing that do note, right, is that whatever expenses that you're claiming, to ensure that you have the proper source document ready and intact,
Mm.
because IRAS can typically still come and open up certain tax years up to 5 years.
Oh, it's up to 5 years. Okay, I always thought it's up
That's
to
right.
7 years. I'm not sure why.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, maybe
correct.
Malaysia is 7 years.
I guess this change to fire, right, is also to show the commitment by IRAS to ensure that they don't have a lot of outstanding years for taxpayers.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, 5 years, I
Yeah.
guess, reasonable. Okay, so make sure everyone you
Mm,
have your receipts
mm,
at least scanned in, right? You do you have to keep the
correct. Correct.
originals or you can just scan it in and just keep it there? Because some receipts may lose their ink after 5 years.
Yes, correct. So right now, right, IRAS actually they actually allows business owners to actually keep all these receipts in digital format.
Mm. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have equipment, we have
Mm-hmm.
entertainment, we have probably got entertainment meals, transport. How about things like Google Suite, Zoom subscriptions,
Mm.
website, domain and stuff? Is that all allowable as well?
Yes, so typically all those things, right, they are also allowable as well. So let's say these are, subscriptions that you need in order to run the business.
Mm, mm.
So that's not a problem. Mm.
Okay, no problem. And what about training?
Mm. So training, right? Again, it is also something that you need to be aware of. Training, as long as you can prove that this is from, let's say, a reputable trainer. It can be overseas trainer. That's not a problem, as long as it is linked to, let's say, your business. Then I think those
Mm.
are also claimable as well.
Okay, cool.
Mm,
But I have a slightly unusual question. Say, because I'm an
mm,
astrologer, right? And I will
yeah.
attend Zoom or I will pay for Zoom classes online with certain US
Mhm,
bodies. Is that still
mm.
considered to be claimable?
Yeah, I think those are shouldn't be a problem, because you need to, let's say, do certain personal improvement. in order to give a better service to your clients.
Yeah, yeah.
So that
It
is also
is
part of
my,
your
yeah.
training as well.
It is part of my continuing professional development. I would say that. So
Yep,
that's
yep,
okay, right? Okay,
yep.
cool.
Mm,
And if people pay for networking groups,
mm.
business networking, that's fine too, right?
Yeah, I think as long as it is again an established business networking group, right?
Mm.
Then the objective is very clear. This is about business development. Then I think it
Mm.
shouldn't be an issue to be claimed as well.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I
Mm,
needed to ask these questions because I think these are some of the very practical things that people have in their
mm.
business and they're not sure
Yeah,
sometimes if that's deductible or not deductible and so on. Yeah,
yeah,
so thank you
no
for
problem.
clarifying that. Um,
Yeah.
and as for what else did I
Mm,
want to go through? As for tax incentives, do we have any really as a small to medium sized enterprise? Like, are there a lot, or where can we go to look more for more tax incentives?
mm. So usually for sole proprietorship, right? Unfortunately, because you are being taxed as an individual, as an individual person, right? So there isn't this kind of like tax exemption or incentive that are usually given. Okay, but having said that, right? What you do get as a registered business sole proprietorship, right? Is that, let's say there are government grants, for example. Let's say everyone, a lot of people goes for, let's say, the IMDA Start Digital program or the PSG grants, for example, right? So proprietors are still eligible for all these grants.
Oh, okay. I'm not aware of
Mm,
any grants that are ongoing right now, though. I haven't looked for a long time. But are they? Do you? I mean, do
yeah.
you? I'm just wondering
Mm,
whether you know if there are any still ongoing ones. Last time, a long time ago, they did give us grants for like laptops and IT equipment and all
mm,
that, but that
mm.
was a long time ago. So yeah,
Yeah,
any of
correct.
them go ongoing now or not
Right
much?
now, for laptops, not that I'm aware of, but if let's say you are running, I believe if you're running, let's say, like accounting or HR, I think there are still certain grants that you can still tap on, what we call the PSG grants.
Mm-hmm. Like say
Yeah,
accounting
so these
as
are still
in
available.
like a zero software sort of thing?
Yes, it will be like accounting software, like QuickBooks as well.
Mm, okay. So
Mm.
there are
But it doesn't.
grants for that.
Yeah, correct. But it doesn't cover the accounting service itself. So usually these grants are really for you to procure the software, but the service is still something that is separate.
Mm, okay.
Mm,
So if anyone wants to get themselves an accounting software, for example, they can
mm,
always go to an
mm.
accounting firm and say, I want to procure a software. Or do they go directly to Intuit or to Zero and say, I want my 50% grant or something?
So usually for this kind of grants, right, they usually will work through partners like
Mm.
us to get the grant.
Okay, so you guys can get the
Yeah,
grant for us. Is
yeah.
there a requirement for me to say hire you guys as an accountant in the meantime, or can I just get the license from you guys directly?
I guess there are two models to it. One way is that you say you just want to get the license from us, and that's it. So we're just like a middleman, just like a reseller, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other method could be whereby you need us to, let's say, configure the software the software for you that is
Mm-hmm.
fit for your purpose. So in that case,
Mm.
usually we will also come in with the advisory and the setup services as well.
Okay. All right. Cool. So there's two
Mm, mm.
models. Everyone can. Well, I'm just happy to just DIY, but I guess other people might
Yes.
need an accountant to help them to do the all the technical stuff for them, and then they can use it on their own, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm,
Okay. So this is a lot that we are covering here for
mm,
grants and grants, any tax incentives. I
mm.
think we've covered that part. Uh, I also have one more slightly technical question to ask you
Yep. Yep.
about cross-border.
Yep.
It came up as a question from one of my friends, one of my viewers,
Okay.
and they were asking, hypothetically speaking, what would be their obligations? Say, for example, in two cases, yeah. In one
Uh-huh.
case, they are, say, doing a Zoom session with someone who is located outside of Singapore. Do they have to
Yep.
pay tax because they have earned this tax from someone outside of Singapore?
Mm-hmm.
Like, say, Indonesia or Malaysia or something like that. Or say, what happens if they are going into Indonesia or Malaysia, for example? I'm just
Mm-hmm.
quoting it because it's a neighboring country. And they do a
Yep.
consultation there, right? And
Mm.
they earn from those people there. So can
Yep.
you explain whether there are any, like, things that we should be looking out for in those two instances?
Mm. Sure, no problem. So in the first instances, right, let's say the consultation or the training is done over Zoom online, right? So essentially, those are income that are taxable. All right, they
Taxable
are
in
they're
Singapore.
taxable. Taxable will be Singapore.
Mm,
Singapore IRAS will deem this as a Singapore source income.
hmm. Okay.
So it will be subject to the Singapore tax. So the other way, whereby let's say they are flying into a country to do the consultation, right? I think there might be two areas that they got to be careful about.
Mm,
One area is obviously with regards to employment law issue in our neighboring countries. Let's say you are there, as a consultant. Firstly, do you have the valid, you know,
yes.
employment permit to even do that? This is number one.
Mm,
Because usually when we travel cross border, right, we say, oh, we are there for business meetings, but we never say we are there to, do some, actual consulting work or something like that.
yeah.
So this is really something that you got to be, aware
Okay.
of.
Mm, okay.
Number two is that the fees that let's say your friends are being paid, they might be subject to what we call withholding tax in the host country.
Got
Mm.
it.
So a portion of let's say their service fee or consulting fees, right, might actually be withheld, and paid to the local tax authority.
Mm, before they can get it. That's the amount that they have to, I guess, pay.
Correct, correct. So luckily for let's say Singapore tax resident, right, Singapore, as a country, right, we do have a lot of what we call double taxation agreement with a fair bit of countries. So with double taxation agreements, right, sometimes you might be able to get really preferential withholding tax when you need to pay them, in the overseas country as well.
Okay, got it. Yes, yes, understand.
Mm,
But then there's a
yeah,
whole different process to follow because it really depends on the country that you're talking about, right? It's not generic.
yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah, correct.
yeah, got it, got it. Okay, so I guess that was very, very clear in terms of the tax. And if there's anything that I'm earning online from a customer that's
Mm,
located anywhere around the world, I only right
yep.
now have to pay Singapore tax. And I don't have to pay
Mm,
tax to, say, US or UK or anywhere that my clients are situated in right now because there's
mm,
no framework for that right now yet, right? Okay.
yep, correct.
But developments wise, though, do you know whether there are any frameworks that are being built up for that right now because we conduct so much of our business online nowadays.
Mm. I guess this is probably an area that will come to the attention of tax authorities of different countries. Um, I think like what you mentioned correctly, right now a lot of services are being fulfilled and consumed online everywhere in the world. So I'm pretty sure that the tax authorities will come up with certain framework and guidelines on how to manage that
In
going
the
forward
future.
in the future.
I don't like that. That goes against the whole global business thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
correct.
okay.
Right
All
now,
right.
right now, probably they are looking at the bigger numbers.
Mm,
And yeah, I think eventually it will filter down.
mm, okay. I guess technology
Mm.
and all that will make it easier for them to track as well.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So okay,
Mm.
looks like we covered quite a lot today. We covered a lot in terms
Yep.
of what's the difference between a sole proprietor, a LLP, a private limited, and what your
Mm.
obligations are. What else did I want to cover? I guess in terms of say incorporating a business, while
Mm.
someone can probably do it online themselves. The only thing is, I guess, if you are if you are just one person, one director,
Mhm.
you were saying you need someone else to be appointed as a company secretary,
Mm.
right? For all the
Yes, that is right.
legalities and all that, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I guess your company does the company secretarial for you too, right? For all business owners too.
Yeah, correct. So we do do all this for our clients. I think
Mm,
the good thing about growth, right, is that we actually do all these things online digitally for our clients. So
mm,
our clients can save the hassle of traveling to town to our office to get all the documents verified. They can also, let's say, give us instructions via our own growth app. So let's say when it's time, the financial year end has arrived and they need, certain accounting or certain tax support. There is no need for them to, call in or even to email us. You can just open up your mobile phone, give the instructions to our team, and our team will be able to support, your queries, remotely. And even when it
mm,
comes to, let's say, the signing of documents, we are able to, let's say, generate the documents for you. And once you review that it's okay, right? We actually have a function for you to e-sign documents, online as well.
mm,
So this really, helps you to, focus, your time more on, running the business or servicing your own customers rather than, being worried about, are you meeting your compliance deadline, for example? Do you have anything outstanding, for example?
mm. Okay,
Mm.
okay, got it. Yeah, it seems like you guys are very tech savvy.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
I think that is the main aim for us. Well, I believe, because, we embark on that direction, right? It also,
mm,
creates that certain, I'll say, expectation that,
mm,
we're actually quite proud to say that, all our Google reviews that we have gathered, that we have garnered since we started, right? We have always get about 4.8 rating, 4.8
mm,
stars rating out of 5. So we think that is really down to the good work of, let's say, the team and growth.
mm. Okay, very nice.
Yes.
Just one more
Hmm.
question because some of my friends are foreigners.
Yeah.
So if you're a foreigner, for example, are you able to still
Hmm.
set up a sole proprietorship?
So for foreigner, legally it is possible to set up a sole proprietorship. Okay.
Mm,
However, right, the issue come whereby, let's say, you will need to have a local, what we call a local representative, someone that is legally responsible for the sole proprietorship.
mm,
So what we mentioned earlier on, where it comes, let's say, sole proprietorship, there being, there is no separation of, let's say, liability between the sole proprietorship and the owner itself.
mm.
So, essentially in this case, right, the representative will be the one that is responsible.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure someone would be willing to
Mm,
do that. Yeah. Okay.
exactly.
Mm,
Yeah.
all right. So if you are, say, a foreigner and you set up a private limited, then
Mhm.
uh, is there anything that's different for them? Do they need a local person or do they need a local director or something like that?
So usually for, let's say, a foreigner that wants to set up a company, right, they definitely will need to have a local director. And local director in this case, right, can refer to, let's say, a Singaporean or a PR.
Mm, okay.
Right. We could also have cases whereby the foreigner themselves, right, decides to move to Singapore to actually run the business full time, that is when they might need to apply for a proper employment pass. And with the employment pass, right, technically they are allowed. They can actually set up a what we call they can also be deemed to be the local director as well.
Okay, right. So you can be deemed to
Mm.
be local even though you're a foreigner, as long as you have, I guess,
The passes,
a
yeah,
pass,
the valid
a work
employment
pass, right?
passes, yeah,
Employment pass to work here. Okay,
yes,
got it. So
yes,
that
and it
that
has
will
to
be a
be
whole different process.
correct, and it has to be an employment pass and above. It cannot be like a S pass or work permit holder. Those are not allowed.
I see. Oh, what's the
Mm.
threshold for employment pass? How much do you have to earn in order to get an employment pass?
Yeah, I
Do you
believe
know?
right now is about, yeah. So I think right now minimally is about 5,005 for, let's say, the starting for employment pass holder.
Right. Okay, got it.
Mm.
So, I mean, these are some of the things that foreigners have to take into consideration when they want to apply for an employment pass as well.
That's right.
Having to pay themselves at least $5,500 a month.
That's
Right.
right.
Okay,
That's
got
right.
it, got it. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, is there anything else that I maybe have missed out or not covered? Are there any other frequently asked questions that you come across as well?
Mm. Actually, in our experience, I think that is a very good question. So usually, right, what we do see are from actually some very, very successful sole proprietor or even business owners is that, when they come to us, they say, I have not filed my taxes, or I have not done my annual returns to ACRA for a while already. So you say, why do you do that? You seem to be running a very successful business, right? So a lot of times they say, oh, I assumed that, in the first 3 years, I don't need to file anything. So
Wow.
actually, yeah, yeah. So
So they
actually,
get caught straight.
that is not correct. Correct. So it's very important to remember, right? In Singapore, right? Taxes, be it a sole proprietorship or be it, let's say, a company, right? You got to file the taxes every year.
Mm. Yeah, whether or
All
not
right.
you're making profits, even if you're making losses, you still have to file your taxes, right?
That is right. That is right. That's number one. And number two is that for sole proprietor, you need to renew your license. So usually for license for sole proprietorship, right, it's valid for one year or 3 years. So before it is due for renewal, do remember to go and renew the license.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
And for private limited companies, right, annual return is a must. So even your
Mm.
company is dormant, you still need to file your annual return with ACRA every year.
Mm. Got it. Annual return is
Yeah,
basically filing of all your statements and everything
the statements
with.
are everything correct.
Okay.
Mm,
All right. I hope
okay.
I managed to also at least help other people understand this more easily. I'm not sure, but we'll see how it goes. Let's see what the feedback is. Thank
Yep, yep.
you so much for your time, Jackson, for giving us this overview of what it's like, really, basically, to run a business from the administrative point of view.
Mm, mm,
How can people find you if they want to look out for your services, or they want to sign up
mm.
for services or get more advice from you?
Yep. So definitely thanks for having me, Tonya. It is a great pleasure to speak to you and sharing with you, and for listeners, right, the experience that we have, some of the really funny situations we have from our clients as well. So if, let's say, for viewers who wants to engage with us, for a more specific Q&A, right, what they can do is that either they can go through you, because I believe you have a lot of friends that they might have questions. They can always go through you, or they can actually visit us at www.growth.co. So www.grof.co.
Okay, all right. You guys
Yeah.
not on social media, right? Not
We are
allowed
on
to.
social media as
LinkedIn?
well. We are not, yes, LinkedIn, yes, we are on LinkedIn definitely. So yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, you can always hit me up on LinkedIn and DM me there as well.
Okay, cool. I'll put their website details on the screen as well as on the show notes below. So
Sure.
yeah, is there anything else, any other advice you can give to all of us here, Jackson?
Yeah, yeah. I think that having been through this I would say this entrepreneur route myself, for the past 6 years, right? I always think that it's fairly important to trust your instinct and never give up, because I think as long as you keep trying, something good will happen.
Mm. Yeah, never give up. Yes.
Yeah,
That's what I keep telling
correct.
myself. Never give up also.
Yes. So yeah, just try to I would say grow a little bit of yourself every day. And yeah, and good things should follow.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Jackson, for your
Hey, my
time.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
hope the listeners are happy they got some answers here. If not, hit me up, look up Jackson, and you'll be able to find more answers. Yeah. Okay. Thank
Yes,
you,
hopefully.
everyone.
Yeah.
And
All
bye
right.
bye. Bye for now.